settle in and listen to our mixtape and know the music vanishes. Enjoy your buttons sandwiches.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back again to the mixtape. I'm Jason Emmett.
I'm Casey Masterpiece.
And I'm Twisted Kid Matt.
It's so weird because we like have stuff in the can and we've recorded ahead, but since we've switched to the like every other week schedule for a while, I feel like it's forever, and I almost forget what I was gonna say, like what show we're doing, like what show is this again? And I want to tell you guys all out there who've continued to listen and support and everything, thank you very much. We've switched to this schedule, and yet I still feel like I am so freaking busy and behind on everything recently. I don't know if you guys feel that way too, because it's like
Yeah.
the last few weeks have just been pure insanity in my life. Not
Yeah.
all bad. Some of it was bad, but some is good, and it's just been so much shit going on that I feel like there's not time for anything. So, but we got some cool stuff coming up, and we've got Horror Hound coming up this September. Hopefully Matt can make it out to that. We still want to have Aaron on the show with us. Actually,
Yeah.
Aaron will probably come on and do a Twisted Kid with us over on YouTube, which we are available on YouTube. You guys can go check all that stuff out. All of these episodes are available on YouTube as well. So we do video versions of these now if you just really want to see our beautiful faces, because they are very beautiful.
And you get to learn fun facts along the way.
Yeah,
Such
he does
as
like
little
pop-up
behind the
videos.
scenes things that we learn about the movies while we're talking about them. So
Yeah, and we of course put images and stuff up to go along with what we're talking about. So you can go over there and check that out, and go support it. It's cool.
Yep.
I also do a thing over there now called the Movie Mix, which is doing really well. A few times a week, they're little, I don't know, 3 to 5 minute, sometimes longer, but I talk about upcoming movie projects, things like that. And then Matt and I do a show over there every couple of weeks. We try to get them out when we can, called Real Talk, where we dive in deep, usually into a movie franchise. And we talk about that. And the most recent one we put up was Beetlejuice. We talk about the Beetlejuice franchise and
you said it 3 times already. God damn it.
the upcoming movie. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time doing that. We'll have to drag Casey in on one of those when we figure out the right franchise, because I don't know what we're talking about. And we try to do it with
Russian submarines.
we try to do it with
We're gonna do a
movie.
battleship franchise.
So like that movie's not as bad as people make it out. It's really not. It's really not. It's not a horrible movie. It's not.
I haven't
great,
seen it. I shouldn't be talking about it then. So
we try to do franchise stuff, and two of the things we're going to be talking about here soon is we're going to do a deep dive into the Hellboy franchise and the Aliens. So you kind of see we try to keep it relevant with stuff that's coming out. So, and if you guys didn't know, there's a new Hellboy movie coming out this fall. So, surprise!
Yeah,
I have a video
this fall. It's already July.
Oh yeah, it's done. It's coming out this fall. It's done. Yeah. So, with that being said, today's episode we're going to be talking about musical urban legends. We're going to be talking about some fun urban legends in the music world, ones that we probably all know, but we kind of wanted to deep dive into a few. Not real deep. It's a shallow pool. It's a very shallow pool. I want to kind of bring up the ones that some of them we know are complete bullshit. Some are still being argued today, and I want to bring them up and tell you the like urban legend behind them and see, because you got to know most of these, but I want to hear your thoughts and memories about them. Like, oh God, I remember hearing this, I remember hearing that. And we're going to start off with one of the big ones. So I did a show briefly, a podcast briefly years ago. It was a solo show called Real Strange. And it was weird stories that are supposed to be true or have some truth behind them. And I have like 30 some episodes, and I may put them back out. I've talked about it a lot, just putting those back out. But one of the things that spurred it was the Philip Taylor Kramer Iron Butterfly story. Like, I always wanted to get into that. So I kind of mentioned this to Matt. This is not one we're going to get real in depth to. But Kevin, have you ever heard the story about Philip Taylor Kramer from Iron Butterfly? You know, the In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida band. He wasn't around for In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. So this dude joins Iron Butterfly, right? And he's in the band for a couple of years. The band breaks up, whatever. He goes on to become this like physicist or some shit. Real smart guy, right? I don't remember what it is. We're just gonna say cold fusion. It wasn't, I don't think. But he comes up with this new energy source or something. So he says. Then he starts acting really weird, saying people are out to get him. And he starts doing all this really bizarre stuff. And all they know is like one day he said they're like trying to kill me, they're out to get me, like all this weird shit. He pulls out some money or some shit, goes to the airport, doesn't get on a plane. I think this is in the late 90s. Doesn't get on a plane. Nobody knows why he went to the airport because he then leaves the airport in a van and disappears and is gone. Like no one knows what the hell happened to him. And he said, like, I'm probably getting some of this wrong. And he said shit like, if anything happens to me, then somebody did this to me, because he was like married and shit. Years go by and they end up finding his van in like over like a ditch thing at the bottom of a hill side of the road with a skeleton inside, like his skeleton inside. And people are like, well, he crashed, but no one actually knows what actually happened to him or why he did all these bizarre things the day before he died. And like his dad had helped him with all this shit. And like there's all these theories that he created some weird energy source or something and they killed him for it. Anyway, I always thought it was an interesting story. And that's kind of what got me started on Real Strange. So I thought it'd be really fun to talk about some of the weird urban legends in music. And so we're going to hit on one of the most popular ones, I think, first. Now I remember, don't worry. I mean, how could I ever forget? It was the first time. Thank you, Matt. This is the first time I ever heard the story about Phil Collins. You caught that I was doing lyrics, right? It was the first time I ever heard that story about Phil Collins and the writing of the song In the Air Tonight, because as the urban legend goes, let's do this for, do you guys remember what the urban legend behind this song is and what version did you hear?
I don't.
I feel it was something
really?
about a guy falling through the ice at a lake, and he just stood there and watched it happen.
So there's
Instead of
all
helping
kinds of
him.
There's all
Oh, I
variations.
have heard that version.
There you go.
Yeah, it's okay.
So the story goes, and there's a couple versions. But basically, Phil Collins witnessed a man watching another man drown, and he was apparently on the other side of the lake. So we'll kind of get into that. Here's the urban legend. Phil Collins is out on a lake somewhere. He sees a couple of people across the lake on the other side. One of them is swimming. The other one is on the shore close by. The guy swimming starts to struggle. He ends up drowning, and the guy on the shore just watches it happen because either A, he was too drunk, or B, he was stoned and just doesn't help the guy. The story goes that he saw all this, writes In the Air Tonight, and then there's a couple of different versions of what happens next. I heard, what I was told is that he gives this guy a front row ticket to a show. The guy comes, they premiere the song In the Air Tonight right there on the stage and put a spotlight on the guy. It's the first time the song's ever been played. Gets out what happened. The dude's life is destroyed. His wife leaves him. He loses his job. And in some versions, he ends up offing himself because all this news gets out. I also heard versions where he plays the song. The version I first heard is he plays the song and then the cops come up and arrest the guy right there for letting the guy, which I don't know how that's against the law. It's pretty immoral, but I don't know if it's legal. If you're drunk on shore and somebody drowns, I don't know but these are all the things I had heard over the years, is that this song was about him witnessing a guy letting another guy drown, and he writes the whole song. Now there's lyrics that kind of go with this. There's if you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. He also sings, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes, so you can wipe off that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies. There's also a myth that's been there's reasons for this myth, that he put the guy's address into the liner notes and said, send all fan mail for this song to this address. That is true. There was in fact an address that he said send all fan mail to.
So Phil Collins doxed a guy back in the 80s?
So it's off the Face Value album,
Damn.
which is what this is on. And in the liner notes, he said send all fan mail to, and there was an address and a name. All it takes is a little bit of research. Now, it would have been harder back then, but it's a PR firm. That address, just all the fan mail was going to a PR firm.
Okay. Better than sending it directly to a guy. Just
Right.
call a guy out.
it's all BS. Like the whole story is complete bullshit. There's nothing to back it up. He's been asked about this 100 times. Do you guys know what this song and pretty much this entire album is about?
No.
So this is when he was with Genesis, but this is a Phil Collins song. A lot of people don't know that. People get mixed up because he did some solo stuff in the middle of the pretty big part of Genesis. They were a huge band at the time.
Mm.
And this song he had kind of pitched to put on a Genesis album, but I don't know if they said no or he decided no. Either way, did his own album. His wife left him. She gave him an ultimatum, and it was pretty much you leave Genesis or I'm leaving you. And they were like right in the middle of everything, and this whole thing started, and she left him, and he started going through a lot of like sometimes regret, but sometimes not. And so like this entire album is all about his wife leaving him, like every song off this album. And if you go and listen to a lot, Against All Odds, you coming back to me is against all, like they're all about her. And he said like when he was writing the song, it was just sort of a stream of consciousness. He was just writing down what was in his head. So the lyrics, part of it he was pissed off, but then part of it he wasn't. So it's like if you told me you were drowning, I wouldn't lend a hand. But then part of it he's not pissed off. It's just it was just all the feelings and stuff I was having that I was just putting pen to paper.
Is this the same ex-wife that, like, just a few years back, just kind of dragged him through court case after court case and just like
Probably
got a ton of money from him, like half of his estate?
I would guess probably. I wouldn't swear to
I mean,
that.
I kind of see why an album would be written about her. She seems kind of horrible.
It was a real rough go for him. Like
Yeah.
if you go listen to this album, some of the songs you're like, now you'll hear a lot of his songs and go, whoa, it's a lot more impactful. Like I said,
Mhm.
against all odds, like that song, right? It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's very like gut wrenching. And so once you learn that, you're like, this very impactful. And then when you know that and listen to In the Air Tonight, you're like, damn, dude, like you're like, this is harsh. In fact, we should do an entire episode. We will now about songs that like and their meanings, because like I would love to talk and what we thought when we first heard them. Because like when I was a kid and I heard Queen sing "Death on Two Legs," I was like, what is this about? Because he's like fucking just ripping somebody to shreds. The whole song is just him destroying someone. Then I found out later it was about a record exec. And I'm like, oh, like, I got it. I get it. I'd heard it was about like an ex-lover, but it's not. It's about a record exec who I think is the dude Mike Myers in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. I think. I could be wrong about that. So yeah, that's a big one, man. And I remember I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember specifically my older cousin told us that story and told us the whole Phil Collins story, and I'm like, whoa, that's intense. And it's funny now because some of these we're going to look back on in a few minutes when we're done and be like, how did anyone believe that? Like, it's just some of them are so crazy. Like this next one, for example. This one's going to hit home. We all know this. In fact, when I told Matt we were going to do this episode, he's like, are we going to talk about this? And yes, we are. Of course we are. Matt, would you like to tell the folks at home what this next one is? Because I bet you can figure it out. You said,
Roller Coaster of Love, man.
Are we going to discuss the Ohio Players? Yes, of course we are. Now, I'm sure we all know this story, Kevin.
It's a wide variety of afros in that photo, by the way.
Yeah, and a turban.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't
Probably
know the
covering an
story
afro.
I don't.
You don't.
Ooh, strap in, buddy.
You don't know the story of Roller Coaster of Love. So 1975, right? Ohio Players in the studio recording Love Roller Coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere right around the a minute and 25, depending on which version you're listening to. In the background, kind of covered up, there's this really high-pitched shrill scream.
We'll add a clip of the audio in the edit on this, so you'll be able to hear exactly what we're referring to. So we'll put just a little.
It's high pitched. It's real shrill. It's kind of hidden. It's not like right out the main part of the track, right?
Yeah.
Sounds
like it's being recorded from really far away.
To a lot of people in the mix, it wasn't even hardly noticeable. But that makes a lot of sense, seeing how the scream was somebody being killed in the studio next door. She was being murdered next door in that studio. Actually, it doesn't make any damn sense because they're soundproof rooms, but whatever.
Yeah.
So the story about the Scream leaks and this DJ at a radio station like just spreads it everywhere. The Ohio Players were recording Love Roller Coaster, and some girl gets murdered in the studio next door, and it gets caught on tape. They didn't know it was in the mix. It's back there. And everyone starts trying to figure out who killed who was involved, who was murdered, and names start coming out, all this shit. So this is off their album Honey. And a lot of people, so there's a model on the album. A lot of people said, well, it wouldn't be murdered. They were into some kinky stuff, and they were putting hot honey on her, and she screamed. All kinds of shit starts coming out. So some of it's true. Some of the story is true. The scream's true. And a DJ did, in fact, say that someone was being murdered. That's all true. But the band wasn't stupid. These rumors started coming out, and they're like, let's just let it go. Let's leave these rumors. Because do you know what happened when they left the rumors? When they didn't address it? When they didn't deny it?
The sales of the album. Yeah.
Sales of the album fucking skyrocketed, and people were playing these like crazy. And it was all over. And the band sitting back laughing their asses off because they knew what happened the whole time.
Yeah.
What actually happened is the keyboard player, Billy Beck, has this kind of high voice, and he was getting into it, man. And this is all right in the middle, like he's getting into it. He's like, wow, he just screams. You know, I mean, they left it in. And the drummer of the band, Jimmy Williams, said this. He basically came out and said this DJ makes this crack on the radio, and it swept the country. And people started asking us, did you kill this girl in the studio? And we decided we were going to take a vow of silence because we sold more records that way. But it was just the bass player or the keyboard player the whole time. He's just and there's other parts of the song where he's kind of getting into it and jamming. They're jamming. I mean, you've heard the song. We all know Love Roller Coaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that dun, 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 and they're jamming in the background, and he screams. But when it happened and the DJ put it out there, they're like, sure, that's what happened.
Sometimes the funk takes hold and doesn't let go.
Oh yeah.
Till you
And I
reach
think
into the
Produced
love
by
roller
Phil
coaster.
Spector.
We're gonna run into that
Big.
with another urban legend here in a few minutes, where they knew. They're not dumb. When the urban legend gets out, they're like, let's just
Play into it.
let's
leave
play
it
into
alone.
it a little bit and see what happens. And inevitably sales go up
Yeah.
because people, especially you're talking 1975, we can now get on Spotify and get this song. But back then, if it wasn't on the radio, I'm like, well, let's hear this scream. How many people do you think went out and bought the album just so they could sit down with their buddies and go, there it is. There's the scream right there.
it's right there.
We heard it. you know, I want to do yet another episode. I want to do an episode on backward masking and play the backward masking.
Yes.
stuff that we were
Please
told
do.
that
Can we
were
also include how
that-
Nickelback just writes the same song repeatedly?
Look at this graph. You ever seen that meme? I love that meme.
So good. But yeah, while we're still talking about Love Roller Coaster, though, this one actually made it into the movie Urban Legend, and they discuss the urban legend while playing the vinyl at a party. And then they're just like, see, this is where it happened. And they have to go into it. It becomes a plot point.
Well, that's the same thing would happen with backward masking. So that's why I brought that up. People would buy the freaking single or the 45 or whatever just to, because I had that happen in my life.
Yeah.
Where somebody came over to our house when I was a kid and was like, look, I got this. Let's play it so I can show you the backward. Like they went out and bought it just to do it. So that made money. Funny thing about Urban Legend, I was watching this thing last night and it was actors who forgot they were in movies. And apparently Jared Leto forgot he was in Urban Legend.
I forgot he was in it too.
He's very young, but yeah, he's in it. Yeah,
That's
he's in
hilarious.
it. I haven't seen that movie in a long ass time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this next one, I'm really curious if Kevin knows the story about it, because this is right up your alley, man. This is your dude right here. So I'm kind of curious if you know this. Did you know that Bob Dylan stole "Blowing in the Wind"?
Shit, I did not.
So this is a weird one. And this one, unlike some of these, has a lot more clout behind why this legend came out. So one of his earliest hits, it's really kind of the song that set him up. Like it's "Blowing in the Wind" is the song that kind of established him as who he was. It was this hit that like people were into. It kind of turned him into this like poet and like what a lot of people considered the voice of the generation, if you know, and it was all because of the song. But in 1963, it's so weird to think this song was that long ago. 1963, Newsweek releases a story that almost changed everything for Bob Dylan. And this came out in Newsweek. That's important. This was Newsweek. This is legit. So it would seem that Bob Dylan didn't write the song, but this New Jersey high school student named Lori or Laura Wyatt, I don't know, actually wrote it. So Newsweek said he bought the song from Wyatt, and Wyatt had actually shown the lyrics. This is all true, by the way, not the bought thing, but Wyatt had showed the lyrics to this song to a friend of his before Bob Dylan ever released the song. And then him and Wyatt and that friend actually performed Blowing in the Wind in a small band they had before Bob Dylan released the song. All that's true.
Huh.
All that's true. But here's the thing. So as fate would have it, Wyatt worked at the same hospital that Woody Guthrie worked at. And as we all know, Bob Dylan was at that hospital a lot visiting Woody Guthrie. Yeah. So the two had opportunity to meet. So people were like, see, it's just making sense. Wyatt showed the lyrics to a friend before Dylan released it. He performed it, and he worked at the same hospital. So he didn't write this song. Bob Dylan didn't write the song. It had to be this kid. Well, Wyatt's actually denied it. At first he didn't, but then he's like, yeah, I didn't write it, guys. What had happened was Bob Dylan was in a magazine called Sing Out Magazine, right? A year before he released this song. And at that point in time, he actually gave them the lyrics to the song as a poem. And they actually published the lyrics on the page, whatever, as this poem, right? So this kid then sees it and he's like, oh yeah, to his buddy, I wrote this song, right? But it was actually Bob Dylan's. He just hadn't recorded the song yet, but he'd written the song. And so the kid saw the lyrics, showed them to his buddy, and then I don't know if they performed the same version of the song, but they performed the song with those lyrics. So all that really happened, but it was written by Bob Dylan. The kid just claimed it was. It really wasn't. But it's a weird thing to know that he released the lyrics to the song a year before he ever even recorded and released the song.
It's weird.
It is, but then you consider the kind of beatnik poetry thing that he was doing, and I'm wondering if he even knew it was going to be a song when he wrote it.
Yeah,
you know,
like maybe like this is a good poem.
God knows,
but it exists like that.
So yeah, I always thought that was interesting when I read that he I never knew who knew that there was a controversy that he didn't write the song, and somebody took
no clue
for it. Newsweek magazine freaking accused him of not writing the song, not stealing it, but paying for it, buying it. But no, he didn't. He's not JoJo Siwa. He doesn't buy other people's songs and then tries to make people think that they're his. And then when people find out, they're like, never said that. It's like, well, you didn't say it, but you sure as hell implied it. I shouldn't give her any attention. That's what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
She's obnoxious. That's right, JoJo. I said it.
Yeah, like get your fans, whatever they're called. They probably have a stupid name. Get your fans to come over and comment below and have them like, subscribe, and share our show.
I have a feeling we don't have a single JoJo Siwa.
No, we don't want to mess with the JoJo Siwa hive or whatever.
We have primarily males.
Let's look them
there's
up.
There's probably a few closeted JoJo Siwa fans, but they ain't gonna admit it.
Fans. Fan name. Let's just see what that's called. What are they called?
Oh, that would be fun too.
The Siwanators.
Is that's their name?
That's what it is. Yep.
I feel like that's not that clever.
It's not.
No. That would be
There's
a fun
lot
episode.
that's not clever about her actually.
Like talk about the fan names, you know, like Swifties and Kiss Army, and you know, like all the different where they got their band names and stuff.
Fans called
the
Maggots. Yeah.
Tapeworms. Woo! We said it.
Yeah, they're the best fans around.
So we have a few more to talk about. This next one, I know Matt and I have talked just bullshit about it in the past and how angry it made us. I'm not as angry now that I know. I'm angry with one person now that I know the full story behind this one, because I didn't know parts of this before. We've been told our whole lives that certain people died certain ways. For example, we were told that Elvis Presley died on a toilet. Apparently he did, That's actually not a lie. He hadn't pooped in days. Like this is because of some of the
It was
drugs.
all cramped up in there.
No, that's
Yeah.
all true, man. And they moved him from the toilet to his bed because they didn't want people to know.
To know that he died on the toilet, and we still
Yeah.
just know he died on the toilet.
He was constipated, and I think he had a heart attack, but he was But the other thing
Trying to
we've been told most of
Push
our
out a
lives,
log.
and this one to me was just hurtful and mean, but we were all told that Mama Cass died
Yeah.
because she choked on a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid, there were three, like, there were a couple deaths or things I was told, like, as a kid, like, I think it was it Janis Joplin who supposedly drank, like, rubbing alcohol. Somebody, was it Hendrix that choked on their own vomit? Like, just certain
Yeah.
things, which I think that might have been true. And that Mama Cass died of choking on a ham sandwich. And I'm like, God, that's horrible. Like, what a shit way to go for, like, but it's,
Yeah.
this one used to make me angry. When I found out it wasn't true, I got a little angry. So let's get into this. I always thought it was kind of disrespectful. She's a heavyset woman.
Yeah.
Right? And
It's
so
very
to say she died
disrespectful.
by- It is. It's disrespectful. But I thought it was like just this urban legend myth thing that people had made up, and it's not. There's a reason why this was said. Okay. This was actually the case of one person making an offhanded remark and that remark sticking. So Sue Cameron was a columnist, and she was also a really good friend of Mama Cass's. They were really close. And she had talked to Mama Cass, I think, the day before she died. She then tried to call her the next day, couldn't get through. She started hearing rumors that Mama Cass was dead, so she started freaking out. So she called her apartment, and I guess Mama Cass's manager, Alan Carr, answered the phone. So according to Sue Cameron, he was hysterical, and he was freaking out, and he told Cameron there was half a ham sandwich next to her on the bed, right, that she died choking on that. So Cameron, it was her manager. So Cameron's like, oh, it must be true. So, and she was a columnist. So that's what she wrote. There was an autopsy. And of course, it turned out it was just a heart attack that killed her. Right.
I was gonna say
We
I
all
didn't
know.
even know how she actually died. I've only
She died
heard
of
the
a heart
ham
attack.
thing. I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't know what really did happen.
So I think the question here, which we have an answer for, is why did he say, tell the world that she died choking on a ham sandwich? Why did he do that? Well, there was a reason he did that. So when you hear this, it's still irritating, but it's not nearly as irritating. The Mama Cass had been struggling, and it was kind of a hidden secret. We all know now, but with some drug addiction problems and things like that. So I guess her manager thought she OD'd, and he didn't want that getting out that she had overdosed, and that's how she died. So he freaked out when she called and just said that. But the autopsy did reveal, though, that there were actually no drugs in her system at the time. She was trying to get clean. She was trying to get straight. But again, there were rumors of the substance abuse problems, and he didn't want that to be substantiated. So he thought, we'll just lie and say it's something else. But it wasn't. It was a heart attack. She died of a heart attack. And the whole ham sandwich thing, some of these get out there and you're like, where the shit does this come from? Like the next two we're about to talk about. And some of them, like this one, we end up finding out where it comes from. And it's like, well, it's still a shitty story, but at least I kind of get it. He thought he was protecting her, which is weird.
Yeah.
Maybe
just created a whole other thing.
And for all I know, there really was a ham sandwich. Like maybe she was eating a ham sandwich when she had a heart attack. That part I don't know. And so he just said it like, oh no, just tell the world she choked on a ham sandwich, not a drug overdose.
Is she part of the 27 Club?
I was wondering that too, actually.
Is Mama Cass part of the
Let me look it up.
27? I don't know. I think she was older, but it's gonna be really wrong about that. But I think she was older.
She was older, I think.
Well, like in her 30s or
32.
something. Okay. Yeah.
32 being called Mama. All right, sure.
Well,
man,
she
could
had
sing.
kids
And she
early.
she apparently did not like the name Mama Cass.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
According
She
to
was
her
a great
Wikipedia
singer.
page. Yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Wonderful, wonderful singer. The Mamas and the Papas were a great. Oh, that'd be another good show, man. Talk about all these bizarre bands that.
Great band, horrible members.
Yes, well, just like
Right.
the stories, because back then, like if you look at the Mamas and the Papas, you look at Fleetwood Mac, you look at the Beach Boys, and like these, maybe not Fleetwood Mac so much, but a lot of these like wholesome bands, and then you find out that like new behind the scenes things were like,
Mm,
woo.
Go-Go's.
Well, never really thought they were. I'd heard stories about them in the 80s, man. They did some interesting.
There's a whole documentary about it.
Does it talk about them taking plaster casts of men's penises that they slept
Probably,
with? Okay,
yeah.
cool. I was just checking.
No,
They were
it's
wild.
the full. It's basically the dirt for the Go-Go's. I
That's
think it's called
interesting.
"We Are the Go-Go's." That's what it's called.
There's a documentary about the Beach Boys on Disney Plus right now that looks just it just came out like a week or two ago. Looks interesting as hell. It's on my list. I gotta sit down and watch it. But all right, guys, we got a couple more, and we kind of have to talk about these, and we're gonna talk about them. Boom, boom. We're gonna start with the fact that I don't know if you knew this, Kev. Did you know that Avril Lavigne died and they replaced her with a clone named Melissa Vandella? It's the Vandella effect.
I was about to say it, dude. but thank you.
Look at that.
Damn.
Clearly a clone, or just the same person a couple years later. I don't know if you know, but baby fat tends to go away from a face after a while.
Hair
They try
can
to
be
put-
dyed.
They try to
Wigs are
point
to be
to
applied.
and a few other things, but like, listen, man, I can show you some people that it's like they drastically changed over the years, and we just don't know. So, first of all, yeah. First of all, I see you pointing to yourself, Matt.
Mhm. I didn't always look like this.
Like how
Yeah, I
many
look
of-
like a black Kenny Rogers. So
How
yeah,
many-
I ain't talking.
how many of us had a crush on Avril Lavigne or still do? No, really?
No, but
Really?
Connie and I literally yesterday sat at a booth at a restaurant and started quoting Skater Boy to each other when it came on the radio.
He's just a skater boy.
It was a weird moment. Yeah. We went down an Avril Lavigne rabbit
I
hole
should-
yesterday.
Girlfriend. You know what I love about Girlfriend?
It's
Is that-
complicated.
Shut up. No, I like that she plays both parts in the video. She plays the like girl that she's trying to steal him for. I don't know. That's whatever.
That's pretty good.
So this legend actually started after her 2002 album Go. So Lavigne suffered from depression a little bit, and that was further pushed with the passing of her grandfather. Her grandfather passed away right after this as well. And according to everyone, who believes in this weird thing, it caused her to take her own life. So the story is that a team of her team was using a lookalike named Melissa Vandella, who I think that might have been partially true, to help keep the paparazzi at bay. So because her album came out and it was like a huge hit, so they were she's not the only one. Lots of people have done this. They find lookalikes, and what they'll do is they'll send lookalikes out, so the paparazzi kind of chases them as they get in the car, and then the people will leave through a back door or whatever. It's very common. It's not uncommon at all.
No.
But the rumor was that she died and they weren't expecting it, and they want to lose their cash cow, right? So they took this lookalike and they taught her to act like Avril and sing like Avril, and they just put her in place of Avril. People go to weird extents. I didn't grab any of these pictures, but there's pictures where people circle moles on their face and go, look. I'm like, that could be a bug bite. I don't know what the hell that is.
Check out the zit she got. Like, cool. All right. Point that out.
There's also a photo shoot where Avril has the name Melissa written on her hand for God only knows what reason. I suspect I know what reason. My guess is because she thought it was funny, but I don't know. this whole thing started after a Brazilian blog called the blog was called Avril Lavigne is Dead began pushing the theory back in 2011, and people love a good conspiracy, man. The thing is, Avril's been asked about this a number of times, and the blogger and creator of that site actually has come out and apologized and stated that she's very much alive. They just started it as a goof and they didn't expect it to take off. But it doesn't matter. Once you do that, it's out there and people are going to believe it. Avril has gotten to the point she's addressed this, and like she didn't even know about it for a long time, and she's like, this is just ridiculous. But sometimes, like I've heard her in interviews, it irritates her that it's out there, but she usually addresses it and answers. But she clearly looks like the same person, just older. like she doesn't look any different, just older, which happens.
Not only that, but it's not the fact that like she died. It's the fact that she committed suicide is the story.
Right.
It's like I didn't do that. Like clearly I'm sitting right here. It's like if it had been like, oh, there was a well, I don't want to like speculate. Okay, there was a plane crash or something. I didn't want to like lead into the next story by saying
I mean, everybody knows
method
what
of
we're going to
death.
talk about next, right?
Yeah, theoretically. But yeah, a car accident in the 60s, hypothetically. But like the method of
I don't think she was alive, but yeah.
yeah, I know.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, the method of death being the stigma behind it and everything, like, you know, an accidental death versus an intentional death.
Sure.
Let's say the stigma behind that would be a lot harder to calm people down about, like just put out a replacement person, or the career is just done, that's acceptable as well. That like if it had really happened, just one method of death over another would be easier to explain.
Well, I kind of want to get into some questions that brings up.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the second one first, and then we can kind of loop them all together. Because to me, you're bringing up some points, and like I've wondered some of these things myself. But before we get into it, Kev, can you take a guess at what the next one is? Probably one of the biggest. No, and I did.
Wow. No.
I did. Probably one of the
biggest. The plane crash thing, wasn't it? I screwed you up with the plane.
Yeah, threw me off. Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest musical urban legends of all. Now, there are other people they've claimed have replaced people. Lady Gaga, for example, supposedly stole the career of someone else, like completely stole it. Just all kinds of weird shit. But this is probably one of the biggest musical urban legends that has began in the 60s and still continues today.
And can loop in the backmasking as well.
Major, yeah, oh, absolutely. And major supporters still today believe this. And that is, and Matt hinted at it, 60s car crash, someone died. Still nothing, Kevin?
James Dean?
No. James Dean did die.
Paul McCartney. And this car was haunted.
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. Okay.
The urban legend is that Paul McCartney died in a car crash and was replaced by William Billy Shears back in 1966. Now, if we're going to talk about Avril Lavigne dying and being replaced, you got to talk about Paul McCartney. Probably one of the first times this sort of myth happened.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this again, you're going to see the baby face to the few years older face, losing weight.
Right.
Like, if he lost weight, he would look different. Like, it's just the way it happens. This was a massive conspiracy. And according to people, this one involved M15, British M15. They're like Secret Service. Yeah. Oh,
I believe it's MI5.
Yeah. MI5.
Oh, what did I say? MI5.
M15.
M15s. Yeah. MI5. So they got involved because they wanted to help. They helped cover the whole thing up because they didn't want fans to lose their minds, man. They didn't want people to go nuts. They didn't want this to create this whole thing. Fans of this have a ton of evidence. Some of it is compelling. I'm not going to lie. I love to get into these rabbit holes, and I've watched some of it, and I'm like, damn. They claim the replacement, that the clone has different facial features. There are hidden lyrics in songs, hidden messages on album covers. And for those last two, they're right. there are hidden lyrics, and we should have put up if Matt thinks about it, he'll do it. He can put up the Abbey Road cover
Oh yeah.
on the video. There's hidden stuff in album covers, and there's hidden lyrics. Because the Beatles loved this. They loved it. It became this whole thing for them. So there are lyrics in the songs. There are hidden stuff on the album covers because they ate it up. And just like the Ohio Players, they were like, guess what happened? Guess what happened when this news came out? Our album skyrocketed, man. The sales went nuts. So they ate it up. They put I Buried Paul. That's not even backwards. Now they try to say it says cranberry sauce. It does not say. It is clearly I Buried Paul at the end of is it Strawberry Fields? What is it? No, Lucy in the Sky with Lucy in the Sky. Anyway,
they were doing a lot of acid at the time too, though. So they could have said whatever.
The Abbey Road album cover in and of itself. Now, some of it was just not intentional, but there's a license plate that says 28 if, because Paul would have been 28 if he would have lived. Everybody is stepping forward with one foot. Paul's is the opposite of everyone else. Everybody's wearing shoes. Paul's barefoot. All these things mean that Paul is dead, right? And this went on. And of course, Billy Shears, William Billy Shears is the clone. And well, he's the singer for the Sgt. Pepper's album. Billy Shears, like that's the character created for Sgt. Pepper's. It's all, they're telling you. This is my first problem. Why would they tell you? If they cloned him, or not cloned him, if they put a clone in his place, a person in his fake in his place, why would they tell you this in all their songs? Well, the Beatles are trying to get it out there. They want it to be known, but nobody else does. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd be stopped if they clearly say the name of the guy. It wasn't it.
Right.
This is number one. Number two, what do they think with Avril and with Paul? Do they think like their family and friends just don't exist anymore and like no one's gonna notice?
No, MI5 took them out.
Everyone
just went in and just
James Bond himself,
Yeah.
you know,
also
took
in all
out Paul.
fairness, the Beatles, Avril Lavigne, not nearly as big as the Beatles. So
No,
who could
right.
all her stuff up? Like, it is ridiculous to think that like the massive like cover up that would have to take place, and how do you get all their friends and family to be a part of it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Money.
if you
A lot
look
of
at
money.
pictures of
Lots of
Paul
money.
that people like to use. So we have a picture up on our screen right now. I'm sorry, folks at home who are listening, but
maybe you should be watching on YouTube too.
But the first photo is from the beginning of their career. It's like Ed Sullivan era ish.
Yeah. The suits
other
and ties
one,
era.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is obviously when they were going through their. I mean, he's like wearing the like hippie stuff. It's when they're doing all the like Indian inspired stuff, and they're doing. So they're years apart. Does he look slightly different? Yeah, he looks like he lost all the baby weight in his face because he did.
Yeah.
You know? He
And then
did lose
there's
the baby.
And there's the whole point of, okay, he died in the 60s. Can you explain his career that took place as a solo artist after that?
How they managed to find a dude that not only looked exactly like him, but sounded exactly like him.
And could write like him and do everything else
Right.
exactly like him? Maybe it's because it never happened.
There you
Could
go,
be.
Matt. There's the tell-all. I
Yeah.
love Paul McCartney, but he's a cheesy ass lyricist, and his lyrics are like that's clearly the same guy writing that crap.
Uh-huh. Why else would there be like a na for like 10 minutes of a song if unless he could actually come up with lyrics?
Well, the original lyrics for that was "Na na 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 not dead."
No, I am not dead. I'm Paul.
Paul,
Paul now. Had nothing to
It's
do
a
with
ridiculous
Jude.
concept.
You know.
But this was a big deal. Like my mom was a massive Beatles fan, and we used to talk about this. And even at one point, even she kind of believed it because it was everywhere. This went on, and DJs and radio hosts kept pushing this thing. And we're talking, guys, this went on for years that the DJs and stuff were still saying he was dead, and that people were believing he was dead. And a lot of this too had to do with similar stuff with, so they think, the paparazzi and having like fake versions of the Beatles. Because a lot of times what they would do is they would have, this is what I've heard, like lookalikes check in, like over here, like they would come to the States and they would have lookalikes check into one hotel and they would go to another. And they would make themselves kind of visible so the people would think they saw them from a distance and shit like that. Which all of that makes sense. You know, I get why they would do those things, but people just eat this stuff up. And in all fairness, it's fun. Like, it is fun to kind of go into the rabbit holes. We did Michael Jackson fake his death, and we've talked about doing a Tupac one. And I'll tell you what, the Tupac one is one of the funnest rabbit holes to go down ever. Because there's some weird, out of all the conspiracies I've ever kind of went, the Tupac one gets me. There are some really compelling things. And a lot of people, this is my point, a lot of people who are close to Tupac claims they've seen him and talked to his ass. And that's what I mean. How would you hide the real people? You know, well, apparently he didn't hide. And you know, my theory there, his ass thought he'd make this comeback, then realized, oh, it's illegal to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wonder what he thinks about this Diddy situation.
He's just glad he's not a part of it.
Right.
Apparently everybody else is. I mean, like, I'm starting to hear names being dragged through that I'm like, oh God. But then people
like
just
Busta Rhymes is like, say it ain't so, Busta. Damn.
Well, you know, we can't assume that everyone that ever associated with Diddy is suddenly part of this thing. I mean, he associated with a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's the problem. Like, well, so and so hung out with him. A lot of people hung out with him.
Right.
Just because you went to a party once or twice, you know, I'm sure there were the sheer number of people that probably went to Diddy parties. And then there's Diddy parties, you know.
Yeah, those are the after hour Diddy parties.
So I want to bring up a couple real small ones just to see, well, not, you know, but kind of see where you guys were landed on some of these. Let's first talk about Marilyn Manson for a few seconds.
Oh boy.
What conspiracies have we heard about Marilyn Manson?
That
there's
the
been a
dude
lot.
From the
there's
Wonder
been many,
Years is actually Marilyn Manson.
So one of the rumors is that he was Paul from the Wonder Years. That's a big one. He was Paul from the Wonder Years. That was a big one. He's not. Paul from the Wonder Years is a lawyer now. He's actually really he loves it. By the way, he got a kick out of it. He's like, I just think that anybody thought I could ever be that cool and goth. It's beyond me. He's like, I was not. Never was that cool. That was a big one though. And then there was actually a rumor for a minute that he was actually Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years. That's an actual photo of a young. Yeah. That's next. The next
you're
photo
not going to sit here and tell me
there's an actual young Marilyn Manson right there. There he is.
The Winnie Cooper, my childhood crush, turned out to be
everybody's childhood.
This guy. This guy.
That was a big one. And then there were rumors that he was the brother from Mr. Belvedere too for a while.
For that one too, yeah.
I could kind of see it.
Yeah. So these were all some big rumors. Matt, what's I already know which one what's one you heard about him?
Yeah, and this got brought up recently because of a meme that started going around, is that that Marilyn Manson had a rib removed so that he could fillet himself.
Yes.
And I don't think that surgery is a thing that can be done, because if so, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more people in this world who would do it.
Yeah. He had a rib removed so he could fillet himself. So I had to look this. I have this on my phone, so I'm going to read this. But this was a huge rumor that he had at least one rib removed so that he could blow himself. So the rumor, they think, actually probably started back in 1994. I actually looked this up. A police officer arrested Marilyn Manson during a concert in Florida, right? Because he was always getting arrested at concerts.
Yeah.
They nabbed him, and they said that they were arresting him because he was performing oral sex on another man on stage, which was against the law, because that was an adult entertainment code kind of thing. So Manson was merely simulating oral sex on lead singer Jessica from the band Jack Off Jill. God. And they were wearing, I don't know if they are male or female. They were wearing a prosthetic penis, so I'm going to assume female, but who knows? So
Googling jack off Jill as we speak.
when all
right
this
now.
happened, Marilyn Manson
Gonna be
addressed
over
the
just like-
rumor, right? He addressed the rumor, and this is his quote. He wrote this in his autobiography, The Long, Hard Road Out of Hell. And he said, if I really got my ribs removed, I would have been busy sucking my own dick on the Wonder Years instead of chasing Winnie Cooper. Plus, who really has time to be killing puppies when you could be sucking your own dick? I think I'm going to call the surgeon in the morning. So they think the rumor stems from those two things. First of all, he was accused of sucking some guy's penis on stage. And then somebody said he had rib removed. And then he was like, yeah, if I did that, I just suck my own dick, right? And so that's where they think that rumor got started.
Yeah.
It was a weird rumor. And it was there. Like people were, there were so many rumors about him. Like, and he loved it. Like he loved it. It's what he wanted. Well, the more rumors, the better, man. Apparently he was a member of the Church of Satan, was asked to be like a high reverend there. At one point, no one knows why this one, him and Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins were going to start a Christian band, which I think they should have done. I think that would have been brilliant had they actually done it. But like, who knows where these things come from? But they were there.
Yeah.
They were there.
So about that book, The Long, Hard Road Out of Hell, a lot of it has been not only disputed, but like straight up, like, I don't know about like, I think there's been like reissues where he had to take out straight up lies out of there.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know, right? Such as like something involving a pretty, and I don't know what the story, I haven't read the book myself. A pretty horrendous story about him and Trent Reznor and a female fan. And Trent Reznor's had to go on the record and be like, that never happened. And I don't know why he said it did. But while we're kind of on the subject of this, let's just say this. Marilyn Manson has a lot of controversies, some real, some fake, mostly induced by himself, because I think he's
Almost
a sociopath.
He is.
So going back to Jack Off Jill, Jessica is a female.
Okay, I kind of figured.
Yeah.
I should be very clear. Jessica is written weird. That's why I was like,
there's like a CK.
There's like a K.
Yeah.
Which is a stage name, but it's just a different
clearly.
spelling of the real name. But yeah, they are a pretty strong feminist, like all kinds of stuff. So yeah, but they were an opening band for Marilyn Manson back when they were Marilyn Manson, the Spooky Kids, which was their early version of Marilyn Manson back in the day. So yeah, a little bit of that.
I think Matt's right. A lot of it, I think he encouraged the rumors because he's admitted.
He's a fame whore, is what he is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he's admitted it. Like he puts on the persona because it helps sell. It's like he knew what he was doing. He's not. It's no different than them going like, oh yeah, we're just gonna. It's just like Ohio players were like, yeah, sure, we're not gonna vow silence because it sells records.
It's like, so you mean if we go on Jerry Springer, we might become a little bit well known? Something that Marilyn Manson did back in the day. Yeah.
Yes.
It was on an episode about being goth.
Before I hand it over to you guys for a few seconds, there's one more that we have to bring up very, very quickly because I think as kids we all believed this one, and that is that at one point in time, Gene Simmons has had his tongue removed and had a cow's tongue grafted into his actual mouth. This is just one of those funny ones that I guess Gene didn't even realize. Weird as it is, he didn't realize his tongue was as long as it was till somebody pointed out because he would stick it out on stage. He has a super long tongue, very long, very creepy. He likes to stick it out. It's gross. Have you ever seen a freaking cow's tongue? First of all,
they're much larger.
You can't do it. But the cow's tongue wouldn't fit in his mouth anyway.
It might shut him up.
People like turn them into sandwiches. Ooh.
Yeah, it's gross.
I won't eat anything that can taste me.
Right.
It's just weird.
I mean, it's just like a.
I'm gonna
big
leave a joke
tongue
off the table.
like a
Then I'm not gonna
bun.
make that one.
Like, I don't want to bite into a tongue and hear the sandwich go,
Mm.
That would just be creepy. I could handle that. So I got to ask you guys, are there any like urban legends or things, crazy little things like this you recall hearing growing up that there was party when? Because when I was a kid, I thought I was little.
I think a lot of people took advantage of the fact that the internet wasn't a thing at the
Was not a
time, and
thing,
we're just
yeah.
like, you can't look this up to find out if it's true or not. So I'm just gonna
Well,
tell you
all
whatever I want to tell you about it.
the fun thing that because now we do have the internet is trying to backtrack where these stories got started. Like,
Yep.
how did this even begin? And there's some crazy stuff out there, man. Just go into music urban legends and find out that some of them are true. Because of course, when I'm looking some of the stuff up, of course we hear, Ozzy bit the head off a bat. He did. We
he was
talked
on
about that on an
stage.
episode. That really happened. He didn't know he was biting the head off a real bat. He was just being Ozzy. I remember, who was it that supposedly had the gross out concert on stage, and somebody passed a cup around and had everybody hawk loogies in it and drank it, and that's how they won the concert. Like, these are just weird shit we hear about.
No thanks.
But
I'm
it's not true. Like, these things aren't real. But what happened back in the day with a lot of these guys is that, especially the guys like Gene Simmons, we're metal, right? So when a story comes out saying how crazy we are, we're gonna say yes.
Of course.
In the case of Ozzy, that's because a lot of those stories were real. Like, I'll snort whatever. It's I don't care. So I'll snort it.
Bats, ants, glue. Who cares?
Oh yeah, Keith Richards snorting his dad's ashes.
True to a degree.
Yeah, that was the thing. I had heard some of that. Yeah,
true to a degree. He
got
did,
a little bit of the
like,
ashes on his finger and just decided to. Yeah,
he didn't roll it out in lines and snort it though. That was not true. Like, but yes, yeah, that he substantiated that part. Yeah, that he got a little bit on and just sucked it up his nose instead of.
Apparently, there was one that Debbie Harry was almost a victim of Ted Bundy.
I've heard that too.
Yeah,
and I think I'm probably really loosely. I think she on a talk show one time said like she was in the area he was in at the same time. It could have been picked up by him or something. It was just kind of a half-handed comment, and people just run with it. Yeah. There are a lot of them out there, man, and it's kind of fun to bring them up and talk about them. I think a backmasking episode would be real fun because I grew up in a household, as I'm imagining Matt might have too, where at the time when this shit got brought up, man, like my parents were really big into church, and I was this scared kid, like, oh my God, I can never listen to Stairway to Heaven again.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that song? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty creepy forward.
Yeah.
You're really gonna play it backwards. It's creepy enough forward. So
there's another like really big one. I just pulled up a list of some music urban legends. The number one on this list is honestly probably one of the first, and I don't know how we didn't mention it at all, so I'm just going to mention it now. Okay. Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil at the crossroads.
Oh yeah,
that's a huge urban legend. So
yeah, you're probably right. That is probably the first.
Yeah. I mean, it literally says for a variety of reasons, Robert Johnson was America's first true rock star.
I guess the first thing you have to
remember the 27 Club too.
With the is that there is a devil and it was hanging out at the crossroads. So
and that there is a crossroads that's just down in wherever, Mississippi.
And if you bring a banjo, you can play against the devil. And is it in Mississippi or Georgia? I don't know where the devil's going to be this week. He moves around a lot.
Check his schedule. He's got it posted.
Sometimes he's down in Georgia, because he goes down to Georgia sometimes, and sometimes he's in Mississippi. Yeah. He just likes the Southerns.
He's always looking for a soul to steal, though.
He's not really. He's not. You don't really hear like the devil in Rhode Island. It just I was into it.
Coincidentally, there is a song called "The Devil in Jersey City," and I have a feeling it's about the Jersey Devil rather than the actual devil. So
there's not a whole lot of devil went down to Delaware.
Right.
devil in. We're in Delaware. We're in Delaware. So there you go. There's just a few musical urban legends that we thought it'd be fun to kind of bring up. Let us know your guys' thoughts. Let us know if there was some that if you're watching this, drop a comment down below. What urban legends do you remember, or what do you remember about these growing up as a kid? Like, because I'm sure you heard some of these. They were pretty predominant stuff. So let us know. Again, guys, we're on kind of a weird schedule. We're on a weird schedule. You hear here on the show the stuff we're probably going to be talking about in the future, because we just say, let's talk about this. Every time we do that, we actually start working on those shows. We have about 4 that we've mentioned here that are now in the works. So those are going to happen. So be looking for those. Again, come check us out over on YouTube and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Watch our beautiful faces. I know it's hard because a lot of people just listen to it in their car or whatever. You can watch it in your car. It's fine.
Just pull over.
Yeah, pull over and watch it. Don't be the one driving.
Yeah, pretend you're changing a tire or something and just
for an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, sir, do you need assistance? No, I'm just watching this great podcast on YouTube. You should check it out. Oh, that's cool. You're under arrest because you're halting traffic.
And then the officer starts watching. He's like, never mind.
Never mind. You're forgiven.
Oh, all right, guys. We thank all of you for listening, as always. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of it. Please check us out everywhere else. All our socials and all that, I probably tacked on to the beginning of this, so you know where they're at. If you're watching the videos, they're popping over right now where you can follow us on the social medias. I don't think our phone line works anymore because nobody ever called it. So don't call us.
Including me.
You can try it.
Sure
Maybe it does. Maybe it does. You can try to call it, but I don't think it does. But follow us everywhere else. There's always fun stuff going on over on the Facebook page. People like to have conversations, and we get called out and shit over there. It's a lot of fun, and we always have fun with it. So check us out there. We love you guys. That's all I got. I know these guys, if I throw it to them, they're going to say they don't have anything either. So, so that's it. Until next, we have the opportunity to speak to you fine folks at home. Remember to always
stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Thank you for watching the mixtape. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the bell icon for notifications when new videos come out. And remember to always stay awesome.